Burberry. Ba-da-bum. Burberry's back.
Put it up.
So we talked about this last episode, but in case you're living under a rock, the former creative director of Burberry, Riccardo Tisci, has left.
Mm-hmm.
He went bye-bye, and Daniel Lee is now the creative director. Daniel Lee has been a very hot commodity in fashion for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
He was the creative director of Bottega Veneta. He made massive waves. He won, I forget the name of that one fashion award that they give out in England, but the person who had won the most consecutive awards was previously, I believe, Alexander McQueen.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel Lee had broken his record, winning
It's
more.
actually wild.
It is wild. So needless to say, hot commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And he left Bottega Veneta because he's apparently a nightmare to deal with.
Yep.
And he, landed on his feet, and now he's at Burberry, a brand that has been, I don't know, kind of, I wouldn't say struggling, but has just been in an undercurrent for a few years now. It has not been as excited or as kind of talked about as these other kind of revived heritage brands. Gucci, Bottega, Gucci. I'm trying to say Balenciaga. So, long story short, now Burberry has a hot designer. He made a bunch of kind of an uproar about changing the logo and trying to bring back Britishness. And we finally saw his first collection at Burberry.
Straight up.
But long story short, Burberry, I guess, caught wind that this young British designer who is intolerable to work with but makes a lot of money was out of a job, and they hired Daniel Lee as the new creative director. What we got was the first collection from Big Daniel Lee. And IMO.
Boom.
I think it looks great. I think it's like what I think a lot of people were expecting in some ways coming from Daniel Lee. I read a kind of a hilarious take that maybe kind of summarizes the collection on High Snobiety. They said it was a combination of J.W. Anderson whimsy with Bottega modernism. And
it's fair.
That kind of wraps it up for me. I think that there it is. There's the words. J.W. Anderson, JWA style whimsy, and Bottega-esque modernity. And in my eyes, at least like one of the biggest things that I can translate for anybody who just is watching and not seeing is that there felt like there was a lot more continuity or consistency in the entire collection. It didn't feel like it was trying to wrestle two different identities of being both modern and appealing to young people and classic and appealing to old people. It felt like it was more confident in what it wanted to be.
That's exactly it. And that's a talent in and of itself, right? Because these designers, they're asked to make like 60, 70 look collections, and they get docked points by all onlookers if these things aren't cohesive, like those previous few Burberry collections that we were talking about under Riccardo Tisci. But he suddenly comes in and like it, don't like it, whatever. It's all fully formed completely at the outset, and it's all of a piece while still providing some really good variety.
What, Kilian? I feel like you're holding back something. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the collection?
So I think I'm going to go back to this headline, actually. I disagree with this headline that says it isn't classic, it's cutting edge.
Why?
I understand where they're coming from because it's definitely, it has that modernity that Daniel Lee brought in his time at Bottega Veneta. But I've always felt this about Daniel Lee is that I was never wowed by him, like with like whiz bang. You know what I mean? Like if you think about some of the biggest Alessandro Michele Gucci collections or Demna Balenciaga collections, there's some people that you see their stuff and you'll just go, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, or whoa, I've never seen that before. I've never felt that with a Daniel Lee collection. What I really get is I look at it and I say, wow, those are really good clothes and those are really well done. And that's what I got from this essentially. So I wasn't completely blown out of my chair, but I also didn't want to be, because I don't think that's what Burberry should be. So in that sense, he understood the assignment and executed it very, very well.
Well, I like that you said the meme thing about understanding the assignment, but
Mhm.
I disagree with you, Kilian. I
Hit
am a
me.
Daniel Lee stan.
Mhm.
I have been. I think like I, I don't know. Maybe it's part of this. I really like the kind of design sense that Daniel Lee has taken from what he learned from Phoebe Philo working at Celine.
Mhm.
And I saw that on full display at Bottega Veneta when he was there. It just felt completely unlike what they were doing for years. And when he came there, there was a modernity. We keep using that word, and that
Mhm.
comes from kind of. I mean, I'm not a genius. I'm not a fashion genius, but I do play one on YouTube. I think
Same.
that it's there is kind of a vision of maybe the cut and the color. I
Mhm.
think that like what was immediately obvious to me for Daniel Lee at Bottega Veneta was he brought in kind of that Phoebe Philo quote unquote minimalism, but he also was able to inject like a clear understanding of like what is a priority in terms of like the accessories were on point, and he was
Yes.
able to take Bottega Veneta, which is a brand that I bet I could talk to people, like a bunch of people watching this, people who watch my channel. I bet if I was talking about Bottega Veneta before Daniel Lee, they wouldn't even know what it was. Because
Oh yeah.
I don't think that
Oh
that
yeah.
was a brand that people knew about. Like, I learned about Bottega Veneta when I was doing an internship at Esquire because they to feature a lot of old man brands. And that's how I
Yeah.
learned about it. And all Bottega Veneta was known for was doing woven leather wallets.
Yeah, it was like if you were to ask somebody now, like, "Hey, let's rap about Brunello Cucinelli
And
or
that's the, and
Xenia or whatever," you know?
Brunello Cucinelli is,
Yeah,
if you want to know what Bottega Veneta was, look at that brand right now. That's basically what it was.
exactly. Yep.
Needless to say, Daniel Lee, I think, took a lot. He took the DNA of Bottega, which
Mhm.
I think was underappreciated, and he kind of like projected it into a modern sense where he made had to like it bags. He made legitimately it bags. He made legitimately it accessories. He
Accessories
made
on
Kelly
fleek.
green an it color,
Mhm.
undeniably. He I think like really promoted the whole masculine femininity that we're seeing in a lot of clothing today.
Mhm.
um, I just think that he nailed a lot of stuff, and if I have to argue it more, I'll make an entirely separate video. But as kind of the counterpoint of what I think he did well at Burberry, I already said that I think there's a lot of consistency. I think there
Mhm.
is a lot of modernness in terms of the way he's using colors, in terms of the way that he's applying like the classic like check pattern. Like it
Yep.
doesn't feel contrived or like
Oh.
they ask somebody, "Can you do this but make it cool?" It's like it feels natural
It does,
and
yeah.
authentic. Uh, I think what Daniel Lee maybe like we can look at what he did with the logo and kind of expand it onto what he's doing with the clothes. The logo
Mhm.
used to be sans serif. Riccardo Tisci changed it to a sans serif font because Eddie Salmon did that, and then everybody else did it. So he did the same thing, and it was out of place for the brand. And what Daniel Lee did was he returned the font, the logo of Burberry, to a serif font with the hookies. I forget what the word is.
Looks.
And what he was kind of signaling or doing was signaling that a specific type of heritage or like kind of the qualities or elements of that Burberry had are authentic and cool. And I think that his designs are kind of an interpretation of taking things that are authentically English and cool and trying to make them
And
more contemporary.
his signaling, I think, is very intentional. All of this rebrand stuff, there's a lot of weirdly deep meaning in the decisions that he's made, because I don't know if you noticed that he brought back in that equestrian knight Burberry logo the word prorsum.
Of course I know that. Of course I know that
course.
because Christopher Bailey changed
Mhm.
the runway collection to just calling it Burberry Porsum or
Yes.
Prossum or whatever it is,
Yeah,
which means forward or Excelsior or something.
exactly. So, for whatever reason, Ricardo, he dropped that. He did the sans serif. It's Burberry, period. Daniel Lee comes in, brings back the serif in the logo, and adds back the Prarsum Porsum forward. So it's
Mhm.
at once both looking back and forward. Yeah,
Straight
we're all
up,
all
dude.
over the damn place right now.
And I want to talk about this in an
Mhm.
upcoming video that I've been thinking about doing, but here's just a little taster.
Hit me.
I think that the recipe for coolness, and has always been and always will be,
Mhm.
one part novel. Something that's cool always has to feel new. It has to be one part authentic. It has to have
Mhm.
some level of authenticity. Also has to be one part nostalgic. Anything that is cool
Yeah.
has to both be new, but it also has to have some touchstone to what was previously. And that can be obliterating what was previous, but
Mhm.
it still has to have some connection to it for us to typically think it's new or cool. And I think that if Daniel Lee, who I think is one of the best designers right
Yeah.
now, if he's doing that, then he's killing it and he's sick. And that's what I
I
think.
mean, he is hitting all of those. I think that's totally accurate. But I do have one more question for you on this Burberry subject.
Uh-huh.
And that is, we've talked on this show quite a bit about the literal need for these luxury brands to have hit
Hit.
footwear and or accessories. And
Yeah.
we also talked about how incredible Daniel Lee was at that at Bottega.
Yes.
So we've got this new Burberry collection. Do we feel like he has that dialed in, that money-making portion of Burberry in
I
this
I'm
collection?
I'm not sure. Like talking about footwear and accessories as the real heart of luxury fashion is kind of like my white whale, my telltale heart. It's the
Mhm.
thing I always bring up because it's very, very much true. The clothing is window dressing. They are going to lose money on making luxury clothing. That's the secret. They make all of their money selling the bags and the shoes and the bracelets and the hats or
Yep.
whatever. So at Bottega Veneta, it was kind of obvious and clear. The cassette bag, the pouch bag, the all the footwear. Daniel Lee took kind of classic elements, made them it bags.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a challenge at Burberry. Now we're going through the pictures.
Yes.
Right now you're showing the pictures. And
Mhm.
there is some
Some
wacky stuff here.
yes.
Like that man, there's a male model holding a clutch that looks like a wooden farmer's puzzle.
Yeah, it's like Jenga blocks or
Yeah.
something.
I don't know
And
if
you've
that's it.
here's the thing, I will also say I've never completely dialed in myself what makes an it accessory. I can look at clothing pretty well, I feel like, and know if it's hitting the mark or not. Uh, Accessories, I've always looked, at certain bags that pop off, and I can't really look at them and say, like, I understand why that did really well and that didn't.
Come
So
on,
I'm not going to
Kilian.
pretend
Come
I
on.
know the formula here.
It's like pornography. You know it when you see it
There
because
you
it's
go.
very sexy and it makes you horny. Um, I don't know. If I've spent plenty of time both doing resale, just working in the industry, just knowing it bags and footwear is like something that kind of comes to you. Um,
Can I tell you
and
something though? I want to hit on this for a second
yeah,
because do you know what this
what are we
is?
looking
I
at?
think.
Yeah. So Killian has on the screen, it's one of the looks from the new Burberry collection.
Mhm.
It's like a kind of red and purple, like swirling look. The model is wearing, well, he's holding something that It's hard to say. It kind of looks like a clutch. It has like
So
ribbing like a sleeve or a glove at the end.
yes, I think I know what this is,
What is it?
and the Britishness of it is just overwhelming me right now.
Oh, we've got a commenter who said it's a hot pad.
Yes. So my listeners probably don't know this. My father is British. And this I remember very well from my childhood because anytime I wasn't feeling well, my daddy would bring me this
Oh,
rubbery
Kilian,
thing,
here I am.
exactly,
Tell
filled
chip
with hot
cheerio.
water.
Uh-huh.
Killian, I've come with this hot water bottle
That's actually
for
Kilian's
you.
dad.
Yeah, that's my dad.
For you. Okay. So
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's an incredibly British thing. And trying to stylize that with this sort of like sweater, faux fur, like Dries Van Noten kind of patterned version, the levels he's hitting on with that are actually wild.
I'm glad you knew that because, like, guys, this wasn't everything else we do on this podcast is staged. I pretend to act surprised or I pretend to like make a mistake. That's all acting. Kilian didn't actually tell me that he was half British. So why have you been holding that back? Because like when I looked at that thing, because there's like a lot of models holding this hot thing,
Yeah.
and all I could think about was the SpongeBob episode where SpongeBob and Patrick have to like break into Squidward's house and he's sick, and then they hold up one of those things and they put the light underneath it, and they go twins. Am I right, everybody? Does everybody remember that from SpongeBob?
There you go.
So that's like a very British thing then?
I think so. I'm pretty sure about that. And the fact that he's trying to make that like high fashion, I don't think it'll work. But as a runway accessory and what it is kind of referencing at or what kind of vibe it's going for is very, very on point, I think.
That's you know what, Kilian? I don't know. You're like holding an ace of your sleeve. British people think everything is theirs. They do, trust me. And
It's called colonization.
yeah,
And
it's called
it's a whole
an
thing.
empire. They go, this is mine.
Yeah.
Take it. Kilian,
India Schmindia.
yeah, they're like, oh, the crown, my prophet. Let me know in the comments how great you think my accent is. I do funny accents, and I have so many people not from America going, "That was really bad. Please stop it. You're destroying our culture." Big K, since
Yes.
you are half British, since
Mhm.
half of your brain is loyal to the crown,
This hat probably.
was there any what do you think like what do you think he's going to do in his next runway collection? Because if you told me the thing you just said and you saw like, oh, he's obviously doing really British things, I would assume the models are going to walk down with like fish and chips. And
So I know I'll go a little deeper for you, okay?
Okay.
So here's what's going to happen. You know how Demna, one of our chatters mentioned this, had the chip bag, the Lay's bag.
That was iconic. I loved that.
At Louis Vuitton, they had like the fortune cookie bag and things like that. Daniel Lee, his next big accessory is going to be a cylinder of hobnobs. And now, if you're not familiar, we'll bring this up, okay? I'm calling it, and he's probably watching, so this is a free idea.
I have no idea what that is.
So these are McVitie's hobnobs. They are a
McVitie's?
yes.
Is this from the new Harry Potter game?
Yes, and they're very transphobic, so don't buy too many or else you'll be contributing to something, So these are I believe they call them digestives over the pond.
Digestives. They call those biscuits.
And they're hot fire. Just little chocolate covered cookies, essentially. And that's my hot prediction. Is we're gonna get one of these tins of hobnobs on the runway.
Okay, what other funny things? I'm imagining The next show is going to begin with a Bobby come out and he's going to be like, "Oh, what's all this then?" And then
Yep.
you're going to have like a bunch of guys in red coats with muskets.
That's what I was gonna say, and it's gonna be like the Queen's Guard. It's not actually even gonna be a runway show. Like, there's no walking. They're all just gonna like stand there, but definitely don't touch them because they'll go GI Joe on your ass.
Yeah, they'll do like a special operative thing and kill you.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna be like, "Oh, let's drive on the wrong side," and then they're gonna be like, "Let's make some food that's horrible."
Yep.
Because they conquered the entire world and all these places that make delicious food, and I don't know what's going on. And then Daniel Lee's gonna turn off all the lights and say, "Do you like this? This is what it's like in England. There is no sunlight." And that
sounded very sensual. Like he's gonna come out like, "Do you guys like this?
Do you like this?" And then he's gonna be like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Ive." And then Johnny Ive's gonna come out and introduce the new iPod. And that's
the next one. Yeah, we did it.
You know what?